All right, everybody, welcome to Art, the 1960s edition. So the 1960s art is extremely different than our 1950s art we looked at. So our 1950s, we had our abstract expressionism.
The rebellious stage.
It was. So we had our abstract expressionism, right? And a lot of Jackson Pollock, a lot of just art, paint flung at the canvases, no real actual forms, all about the feels and creativity. At the end of the 1950s, early 1960s, came a completely different and new era of art called pop art. This is my favorite pop art. If you've ever seen my computer, this is my usual background of Wonder Woman done by Lichtenstein. So 1960s, groovy man. All right, so we are using mass images and culture, mass culture, using found objects. The pop artist reshaped the face of the paintings. Right? So think of pop art as like mass produced, more speaking to how America became very consumer based. Pop art kind of mirrors that and talks about that. So pop art, it's one of the most culturally significant periods of the whole 1920s. The 1960s witnessed a rise of this movement that reshaped and recreated how we did art, how we thought about art, what we used for art, right? Really, really big influential time of the 20th century. A lot of criticism around this time period. There's a lot of student protests. The hippie movement was going on a broad scale. The world was changing and becoming all about like peace and free love, man, and hugs, right? And so this like culture then started around that. So pop art was considered rebellious. All art just love to think of themselves as rebellious. If you notice, there's a theme here. Like if we are looking at the different decades, they're all rebellious. So pop art wished to rebel against the excessive drama and the soul of the abstract expressionism. So when the pendulum swung this way for abstract expressionism, pop art swung this way and was like, we are going to do something completely different, haha. It was not the standard of high art, meaning like critically acclaimed, amazing. This was considered lowbrow. Lowbrow means that it's like lower valued, lower education, lowerness, right? It was these mass-produced, printed, not just hours to do one, but this lot faster kind of printing. Again, speaking to consumerism. The rise of the consumerism society and technology was the pushing point of this, right? There's a lot of minimalism in the movement, again, with the mass produce. So before now, we didn't really have prints of art, right? So if you wanted the art piece, you had to buy that art piece for millions of dollars. You couldn't go and buy like a $20 picture of it. Now we're finally starting to get prints where people can, mass produce their artwork faster electronically through printing and block printing, right? And people could have access to start getting these artworks more so in their homes. A lot of neon was used, like you'll see, neon words as like a whole exhibition that comes from this era. A lot of installation art, sculpture, neon, concrete, steel, more kind of industrial type feel to it, at least with the sculpture parts of it in the installation. So life and art fused like it had never been before. Commercial screen printing, a technique, images from comic books and advertising, iconic movies, music stars, they were all the source of inspiration in pop art. So it wanted to show like the mass-produced America. So like the Coke bottles, is a big one. The soup cans is another large one, right? So these like icon images, Marilyn Monroe, Mickey Mouse, these statement of America and like its commercialism. So who are main artists of the time period? I'm sure everybody has heard of this guy, Mr. Andy Warhol. I added a lot of their quotes because I really like the pop artist quotes at the time. So Andy, if you want to know all about Andy Warhol, just look at the surface of my paintings and films and me, and there I am. There's nothing behind it. So he's just saying he's just as mass produced as his artwork. Right. So let's look at some of Andy's art if my internet will like actually go. And he is like the master of mass producing and screen imaging. So much so that he even started that most of his later works, he didn't create himself. He would just have students create and mass produce his images. Right. So here's our wonderful banana. Right. We have our Coca-Cola bottles. Oh no, Fackler, I'm sorry.
Okay.
All right. Another one of our amazing little Warhols. Interesting that we don't have a picture of the soup cans there. We have our Marilyns. Again, different screening processes to get different colors, different highlighting. Our 8 Elvises. Our shoes. Right. This right here is an example of the soup cans. Anybody never seen this before? Yeah, you've all seen it? Good. Such a lively bunch. All right, Peter Blake was another big one at the time. One of his quotes, I believe in fairies, although I can't prove they exist. Nobody has ever managed to prove to me that they don't. I like the way he thinks. So Peter Blake had these kind of collage style mass produced images, right? So this whole thing is his art, not just one of those little squares. Give you an example, an idea of his art. My favorite of the time period, probably the only one I personally like of this time period, Liechtenstein. Pop art looks out into the world. It doesn't look like the paintings of something. It looks like a thing itself. Liechtenstein, also on a side note, was also a comic book artist. So that style of art really bled into his personal art that he did. He's the one that did the Wonder Woman, right? So you can see, like down here, the one with the cheese head, right? The dots in the background, the primary colors versus, nothing at all, really kind of bold. Okay. This is Mr. Roy. I believe if you saw me for Halloween, I was one of his art pieces. And Mr. Robert Rauschenberger. Ah, yes, somebody did say. All right, there's a whole language that I could never make function for myself in the relationship to painting, and that was the attitudes that tortured, struggle, and pain. I'm having reading issues today, by the way, guys. I need my glasses. Little turny wheel. Come on, wheel, turn. A lot of kind of mixed media, used a lot of words in his artwork, a lot of different layers. Remind me a little bit more kind of advertisement maybe, or like early graphic design kind of look to it, a lot of his artwork. Again, a lot of layering, mixed media type. Okay, you guys can unmute yourselves. What do you think about the artists of the 1960s? So,
I think they're really cool.
why? What makes them really cool? Yeah, makes them really cool.
Well, they turned something kind of boring into something that popped out and made it look really cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay, right. Took the ordinary, mundane, and turned it into something.
Well, if I had to say anything about them, it would just be, well, look at them. All I could see is basic. They're pretty basic, but it's more about making money for them. Not really too much art, but enough to actually get them somewhere. So they're more focused on a career instead of the art itself.
It's Rebecca.
Tyler.
Markers. Can I use markers for this one?
We'll talk about it when we get to the assignment, Tyler.
Oh,
right.
That's a question for later.
Yeah.
I think they're popping. I think the pop artists are popping.
They're popping, all right?
I'm gonna be right back.
Okay, Christian.
I just
Jack, what do you think about it?
I think it's interesting how people differentiate themselves with. Oh wait, was I muted? I was talking.
No, I can hear you. Yeah.
Different art styles, like with the pop art versus like the sophisticated art, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting how it created two different groups of people. So, yeah.
Yeah, it did.
I kind of liked I think it was Roy, right? The comic guy.
Lichtenstein.
Roy. Yeah, I liked his art. It was just like, it kind of popped, you know, because I kind of like comics, kind of. So,
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's probably why he speaks to me too, is because I'm a huge comic book nerd.
Yeah.
So, I know, I appreciate it. Okay, cool. So other artists that were working at the time. So a lot of found art, sculpture, a lot of performance art was happening at this time. Here are some other little artists if you want to click on them. Like Yoko Ono, she who broke the Beatles. A lot of different kind of interesting, very 70s or 60s kind of art there if you want to just kind of look through those on your own. It's not the artist we're focusing on right now, but in case you're curious. So that leads us to our tasks and what is it you are supposed to do for this week. So you have two tasks. The first one is you are going to create an informational poster about pop art. You are going to make the poster look all pop arty like. So an example is this over here. It's okay, Andrea. No biggie. So you're just gonna tell about the art movement, some interesting facts you found out, who are the artists, show some of the art, you know, just give a little information about pop art, turning that into its own kind of pop art. Does anybody have a question about that? Speak now. Okay, so that's your first task. The second one is you're going to create yourself as a Lichtenstein pop art piece. You are welcome to copy a photo of yourself. It's very light here and you can't really see, but she's tracing a picture of herself. You're not using a lot of detail and shading. You are just going for the outline of you. Again, just going for your outline. Hold questions until the end. right? Then you are going in and going to darken those lines up, Tyler, with a marker. You want to
I was gonna do a Warhol style piece and draw one.
nope. You're going to use bold outlines for your pencil lines. Again, it's pretty simplistic in nature. This shouldn't take you very long. Using nice big black bold, think comic book, think cartoon kind of outlines on some. Some lines can be thinner. Then you are going in, you're going to use a ruler and a large chart or large marker, fat tip if you have. Use whatever you have, of course. And you're going to put in the dots. You want to try and keep them as equally spaced as possible, right? Hence the using of a ruler and keep them in a line. Some areas are colored in, other areas are dots. That's up to you on how you want to do that. But you're just going to turn yourself into a Liechtenstein artwork piece. Any questions on that? You can unmute yourself.
When is this due?
It is due by the end of the week.
Okay. Friday or Sunday?
I always Sunday. And you guys know that even if you fall behind on something, you can turn it in later and always get full credit. So for those of you who might not have turned in anything yet, you still can for full credit.
Thank you.
Of course, always.
Miss
So
Rebecca,
Yes, Tyler.
I was planning on doing something close to 10. I was gonna do a Warhol style piece.
No.
Why not?
Yes.
Because why
Your
not?
assignment. You can do the poster, information poster, Warhol style.
Well,
Okay.
it's just
Odd
the,
feeling that I'm just
well,
going
it still kind of
draw
fits
it,
the
yeah.
theme, you know?
Yep. Answer is no. All right. Somebody else was asking a question. Who was talking?
yes, you saw my question in the chat. I was like, so we'd have to do 2 things this week.
You usually have to do 2 things.
2 pieces of art, I meant.
Kind of.
What do you mean, kind of?
Well, the other
There's
one's
this,
informational poster.
and then there's.
Kinds of art.
I already forgot what the other one was. Good.
For the task, it's not really doing art. It's more like a poster.
Right.
Yes, and a poster takes a lot of time.
No, you can do it digitally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it still takes time.
Hmm.
See, not only got to research the things,
Wait, art
which
takes.
should take
All art takes time.
a lot of time, but the basic outline thing,
Going into a
that's
deep dive, Logan,
stuff.
you're just giving me quick surface facts that you can find with a very quick Google search.
So, from what I'm hearing right now, is it some form of 3-dimensional art?
No forms of, no, not 3D. So you're creating an informational poster that's on the screen right now, showing kind of what pop art is. Again, you're looking at surface facts, adding in some art, putting in some kind of background. This can all be digital, right? This should not take you long, guys. You should not be spending hours on this. All right. Then you are going to create yourself as a Liechtenstein, which again is another kind of quick art piece because there's not a lot of detail going into this.
Yes, but you have to balance it out properly.
You are copying a picture of yourself and just drawing your outline and adding in some dots and a little bit of color. This week's art assignment should actually take you a lot less than most of the other weeks.
It should take me longer than any other week, sadly.
Sorry to hear.
Sadder thing, because I have trouble copying things, so I'm trying to get better at it.
Well, this will help you out with that. All right. Yes, Alex, how may I help you?
Do we have to turn the picture in with the drawing or just the drawing?
Nope, just send me the picture, or just send me the drawing. I don't need the picture of you.
Okay,
Right?
thanks.
Any other questions?
Why I said that thing? Yeah, it's because, you know, like the famous painting thing, I did something close to the assignment, but still relevant.
You have your task, Tyler. Those are what you're doing. Okay.
Do we have to draw ourselves?
Yes.
bad idea for with me, you know.
Awesome idea. I miss you guys' faces. You have to draw yourself.
Well, but I'm bad at it.
Well, this is how we get better. Man, I miss you guys. All right. If there's no other questions, I'm going to hit stop on the recording. As many of you guys, if you read the Google Classroom page, which all of you guys should be in Google Classroom, Alex has asked that I do a TikTok video for extra credit. Most of you don't need extra credit. So what I did was I made it kind of for a swap. So if you want to do that TikTok dance and be silly, you can turn it in for a week's worth of an assignment and say, hey, I'm going to use the TikTok dance instead of doing.
Yeah, whether or not the guidelines will let you do that half naked.
What?
Sorry.
I'm
What?
that one. I don't want to know. Don't want to know. Please keep your clothes on.
TikTok guidelines don't make sense.
Okay. Keep your clothes on, children. So
Definitely.
please. All right. So if you want, you can turn that in for a week's worth of assignment and say, hey, I was silly with you on TikTok and made a fool of myself. And so therefore, I do not want to do the 1940s art week. And I'll say, okay, swapped. One
It's kind of
customer.
difficult, mother.
Alex, I can help you.
After
Dr.
seeing-
Clark. All right. Any
Well-
other comments, questions?
I do.
Remember some of those daily drawings I did for you, Miss Rebecca?
Muting me.
Yes.
Mom, why you keep muting me?
I can talk to you after, Alex. That's Tyler.
Remember those?
Of course, Tyler.
I colored some of them in with markers.
Good to know. All right.
Do you want me to turn them in again
Sure.
for credit?
I love you, Tyler.
Deal? I said deal, Miss Rebecca.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Well, I do have my own thoughts about the TikTok thing.
Okay, Logan. Well, you can share this with me later.
Not interested. As you saw, probably during that huge meeting which involved the entire school, I was not in it.
Okay. It's
I
optional.
did not want to be anywhere near it.
It's no big deal if you don't want to do it. You don't have to.
Andrew, I've used TikTok way too much. There are no ads. I mean, there are a few, but it's not like pop-up ads. Trust me.
Yeah, and I've been on that app constantly,
I've
and no
never
one
seen an ad.
hacked my account.
Of course you have, Patricia.
And
I still want my D&D
That's
paper
our
back.
artist too, yo.
Yes, we are artists. Woohoo!
I'm just gonna mute that kid again.
another way I
Not
Freshman-
surprised that Alex wanted that as a thing, by the way. Of course you did, Alex.
Because he's awesome.
I agree.
All right.
TikTokers
You guys are
awesome.
welcome to leave. The meeting is
Who,
officially
Alex?
over.
Which Alex?
Alejandro.
That one.
But you're an artist too, sweetheart. Love you. Yeah, I know. I keep muting you. Isn't it fun?
Stop! Stop muting me.
We'll just put him back in the waiting room.
I'm surprised that, like, am I the only person who knows about the spacebar to temporarily unmute yourself thing?
Oh, I allowed you to unmute yourself, sweetheart.
It's harder on a phone. I know.
Bye.
Bye, guys.